Hi guys, and welcome to the Walking with Anxiety podcast. My name is Stephen Dawes. Thank you for joining me as always. A couple of things I wanted to talk about today, but before I get into all of that kind of thing, firstly I wanted to talk about something a little bit off topic, but something that happened to me the other day. And for those of you who don't drink tea, I know there are some countries where tea isn't really the drink of choice. And I just thought I'd mention this first because I've had a bit of a problem with caffeine for a while now. Caffeine tends to make my anxiety a lot worse. So in general, I've been trying to cut down the amount of caffeine that I have during the day. So what I will usually do now, and my wife is also doing the same thing now, I guess in kind of solidarity thing, we tend to have caffeine drinks in the morning, and then towards the end of the morning we switch to decaf. So we'll have decaf coffee or decaf tea, something like that. And that's been working quite well because we've found some tea that we like that's decaf. It doesn't really taste any different. I mean, tea and coffee to me, caffeinated or decaffeinated, doesn't really taste any different. I don't know if you feel differently about that, but it just generally tastes the same to me. But on this occasion, we bought some tea, and I'm gonna say the name. It's PG Tips. I know that you might not know what brand that is if you're in another country, but we have that brand here. And when I bought it, I thought, well, I used to like this. I mean, my mum used to buy all different types of brands when I was younger. Whichever one was cheapest, she would buy usually, whichever one was on offer. So I've had this tea before, and I always thought that I just liked every different type of tea. You know, regular tea, black tea. So I thought, well, okay, we'll get this. It seemed to be a good offer on at the time, so we bought some. And when I tasted it, I thought, that doesn't taste quite right to me. It doesn't taste really the way I thought it was going to taste. It didn't taste like tea in a sense. When it had a tea taste to it, but it had another taste, an undertone to it that I wasn't entirely sure about. So I thought I'd have a look at it. I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. I couldn't quite grasp it. I thought it tastes a little bit like Earl Grey. Now anyone who's had Earl Grey tea will know that it tastes a little bit florally, a little bit flowery. And I know a lot of people don't like it. My mum once tried it and called the waitress. We had it in a tea room in the country down here, and she called the waitress back and said that they hadn't washed their teapot out properly because she could taste the soap. We then had to explain to her that no, actually that's kind of how Earl Grey tastes. But anyway, she got confused by that. She'd never had Earl Grey before, and it tasted a little bit like Earl Grey. And I wasn't sure whether they were just using a different blend of tea or something like that. Maybe it was just the type of tea they were using. Couldn't quite put my finger on it. And then I happened by chance to look at the ingredients on the box, because there was other writing about how they'd made the tea in the past. I looked at the ingredients on the box and it said black tea and natural flavourings. Now I'd never really thought about what was in tea before, and I thought it was just blended tea. That's all black tea. That's what I would always imagined was in tea, obviously. So I thought, okay, so I looked at some other tea that we had, and that just said black tea. And all the tea I looked in the shops, and they all just say black tea. This is the only brand that I could see that had black tea plus natural flavourings. And I was thinking, what flavourings would you want to put in tea? And I understand if you're having chamomile or if you're having something else to make it taste like something different. But if you just want it to taste like tea, surely just black tea would do the trick. And I wasn't entirely sure whether it was this natural flavouring that I was tasting that was putting me off. So it was a little bit disconcerting, and it happened to me again when we went out to an event. My brother was doing a treasure hunt around the country, and we stopped the treasure hunt at this pub, and we went in, and I don't really drink, so I just ordered a Coke as I normally do. And I usually say, oh, I'll have a Coke or a Pepsi, whichever you serve, because I know some pubs do Coke, some do Pepsi, depending on what they want to do. And I sat down with my wife, and my wife I think had a lemonade and something like that. And so I started drinking it, and I thought, oh no, this doesn't taste right. This doesn't taste like Coke or Pepsi to me. And I know there is a little bit of a watery taste to the Coke that comes out of the guns that they use, rather than ones out of a can or a bottle. But usually you get the same type of taste to it. But this tasted different somehow, and it didn't taste right to me. And I thought maybe there's something wrong. Maybe the mixture was wrong, or maybe they'd run out of mixture, or something was wrong. So I asked the lady, I said, this doesn't taste right, could you change it for me? And she was like, oh, okay, that's no problem. So she took it away, and then she came back and said, I just wanted to let you know that we don't serve Pepsi or Coke here. We serve a different brand. And I was like, oh, okay, what brand is that then? And she said, well, we serve a brand, and I can't remember the name of the brand now, but she said, we serve a different brand for our lemonade and our Coke. It isn't Coke or Pepsi. Would you rather have a bottle? And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll just have a bottle. It tasted odd to me. And for anyone in the UK who's old enough like me to remember something called Roller Cola, which was like a cheap alternative to Coca-Cola back in the day when I was younger. And it was because it was cheaper. A lot of parents bought it because it was cheaper than Coke and Pepsi at the time. And it tasted a bit like that, a bit kind of Coke but in an artificial way. So Coke with added plastic, if you know, that's the only way I can describe it. And it tasted a bit like that. So a second time in recent weeks or days that's happened to me, that I've had a taste that hasn't tasted right to me. It hasn't tasted like what I would imagine it to be. And that can happen obviously a lot of the times, but it really kind of pointed out to me that if something isn't quite right, you automatically know straight away, hang on, this isn't the tried and tested taste that I'm used to. But on with the episode today. Thank you for my little jaunt into something else. Today I wanted to talk about sleep. Now I know there are a lot of people out there who have issues with sleep, and not all of them are linked to mental health or to a problem with mental health in any way, like anxiety or depression or things like this. Some people just have a problem with sleep, and they have insomnia, or they just have trouble falling to sleep, or trouble waking up sometimes as well. But I know most people will have trouble going to sleep, and sometimes it's about comfort, sometimes it's other things that cause the problems. But if you're having problems sleeping because of anxiety or because of high stress levels, then this can be really difficult. I know that sometimes if I'm really anxious, I can't sleep, and I have to wait until the anxious feeling goes away, or I get so tired that I just fall asleep. Now I know some people don't get to that stage, they just stay awake all night and then they just feel rotten the next day. So I was looking into this, and I was looking at some of the things that you could try to do to help yourself if you're having a really bad time sleeping because of anxiety or other kind of problems like stress. Now of course there are tablets you can take. Your doctor can prescribe tablets to you if you're having a particularly bad time. But my wife, I should say, has taken them in the past because of her PTSD, and I know that especially if you have to get up for work the next day, it can be tricky because you can feel drowsy, you can feel lethargic, you really can't start your day properly. So I know that for a lot of people, sleeping tablets don't really work. Now I'm not sure about other things like herbal remedies that you can use for sleeping. Never tried them myself. If they work for you, then of course that's fantastic, and I'd love to hear your stories and what you use to help you sleep, especially if you have high anxiety. What helps you the best in trying to get to sleep? I'd love to hear your comments on that. Of course, you can contact me in the usual ways on Twitter at walkingwithanxie, that's ANXI at the end, or Walking with Anxiety on Instagram, or you can email the show stevendawes@walkingwithanxiety.co.uk. Now there are several ways to try and help you relax when you're trying to sleep, either with anxiety or stress, and I'm on the Sleep Foundation website, and they have the National Sleep Foundation website, and they have a few ideas that can try and help you. I've tried a few of these things, and some of them do actually work. I mean, thankfully for me, unless I'm really anxious, I don't often have a lot of problems getting to sleep. I know some people have real issues with it, but I'm not typically that bad at it. But I have tried some of these things in the past. Meditation, for example. Learning to quieten the mind can be a helpful skill, apparently. So if you have stressful times during the day, meditation can try to switch off that constant noise that you sometimes have in your mind when you're having a stressful day and things are going around in the head. You can't get rid of these thoughts that are in your mind. Meditation can help, and I know that there are a lot of apps out there, for example, on mobile apps that can help you focus on your breathing and use breathing techniques to meditate and to calm your mind down and to calm yourself down. And I know that they do help a lot of people. I have tried them in the past, and I have felt more relaxed afterwards, I have to say. So it could be something that you could try either as a precursor to going to bed, or if you're feeling anxious, you can try to do that as well. Of course, there are other things you can do as well. One of these things is to write down anything that's in your mind, and I have found this helpful sometimes, because if I'm trying to get off to sleep and I suddenly think of something, it can mean that I'm thinking about that so much, and I go through it in my mind and I'm working on it in my mind, and then I'm not sleeping because my mind is thinking about this problem or this thing that I've thought of. So sometimes writing it down can be good because it gets it out of your mind. It means it's something you don't have to think about remembering, and you can just put it down, put any thoughts with it that you've got, and then leave it on the side table or wherever you have, and then it's out of your mind and you can think about it tomorrow or whenever you want to in the future. That's a good way of doing it as well. You can add exercise to your day. Exercise, of course, is the thing that everyone says is good for you for many different reasons, and it does help to sleep because it uses up energy that you may have at the end of the day. So some people do exercise before they go to bed because even though it makes you feel energized, then it can obviously help relax you and make you sleep better, especially if, like me, sometimes when I get really anxious I get a real high rush of adrenaline. That makes me wired and I can't sleep, and it makes it a lot worse for me. So exercise can sometimes get rid of that adrenaline and help you to relax, and especially if you do the exercise and then you maybe have a hot bath, which is another tip, then you can hopefully then be in a good position when you go to bed to actually help yourself fall asleep. Take time to wind down, another good thing to do. A bedtime routine is important. A lot of people use a bedtime routine and they stick to it, and they will, for example, half an hour or maybe an hour, a couple of hours, they won't eat or drink before bedtime. Then they will perhaps have something where they'll read for half an hour before they go to sleep, or they'll get into a routine of having a bath before they go to sleep, or having a certain hot milky drink before they go to sleep. Whatever works for you, and it's a bit of trial and error here in getting a routine that works for you, but it can give you the routine to know that your body will then prepare itself for going to sleep. So if it works for you, so try various combinations. Whatever works, stick to that and see if it continues to work, because then your body will know, actually, okay, now it's time to go to sleep, time to settle down, and hopefully that will make things a bit more restful for you. Avoiding, of course, this is the polar opposite to winding down, avoid doing stressful activities before bed. So if you have to think about bills or money or things like this, try not to do that before you go to bed. And some people sit in bed and they do their bills, they do their banking, or do all kinds of things before they go to bed. They are sometimes stressful activities, and it can lead to problems then trying to relax enough to go to sleep. So try and do those things earlier in the day when you can get them out of the way, and then you have nothing to do in the evening, so you can just go and lay down and go to sleep. Similarly, if you are doing other things in your day, such as playing loud music, or you're listening to loud music in bed, or exciting music, whatever I call it, that can also give you the wrong emotions for going to bed. So try to do things that keep you calm. So you can play music, but make sure it's calming music, or don't do things like reading the news before bedtime that can get you wound up, or to get your emotions in the wrong frame of mind. Try to avoid those things before bed, and make at least an hour, I would say, before you go to sleep. Then hopefully your body and your mind will be more relaxed and more restful in that situation. Another one it mentions here is putting to-dos on paper, which is similar to what I said. Anything you want to think about, or anything that comes into your mind before you go to sleep, write it down. It's out of your mind. It can help to let it go, and you can relax and hopefully drift off into sleep. Now this I haven't tried, tensing and then relaxing. Now this is something you can exercise. You can do it in bed, and it's where you tense your toes for several seconds and then relax them, and do the lower legs and work your way up your body, tensing the muscles and then relaxing them. And apart from perhaps giving you a muscle strain or perhaps cramp, it could also help to relax your body, because then when you relax your muscles after tensing them, it relaxes the body and makes you feel relaxed, gives a sensation of being relaxed. I know that people do this as well if they're having an anxiety attack or panic attack, or they're feeling really anxious, because it can help to make you feel relaxed. Try not to do too much in bed. As I said before, doing your bills in bed, not a good idea. Watching television, or watching something on your laptop or something like that. There have been studies that have said that the light that comes off of these screens, LCD screens in particular, or LED screens, can mimic the effects of sunlight. So it makes your brain think that it's daytime, therefore you're not going to sleep. So there are a lot of devices now have what they call a blue light filter, which can mimic takes away that sense of daylight, and allows you to use these devices in bed. But I would probably say that you should probably avoid them maybe an hour or so before bed. Turn them all off. Turn off your notifications on your phone, unless of course you can't for work or whatever. But try to turn off your phone so that you've got no distractions. You don't hear it buzzing in the night and get up to find out what it is. Turn it off. If you don't have to have it on, leave it off for the night and worry about it in the morning. These are little things that you can do, and hopefully, make sure you have the lights turned off. For example, if you're the sort of person that doesn't like to have light on when you're in bed, turn the lights off. If you can't because you have small kids or whatever, and you need to have the light on so they can see where they're going in the night if they need to use the toilet, then have a sleep mask. I know my wife does have that on occasions. If she can't sleep, she'll put a sleep mask on to help her. And just these little things can sometimes help you to relax and to unwind a little bit. If you're having serious problems, of course, then you do need to speak to your doctor, because there may be things that they can do, either through medication, as I said earlier, or perhaps there are certain techniques that they may be able to advise that would help you sleep. Now, of course, it's very important, if you aren't sleeping well, that you try to rest as much as you can. I know it's not easy in busy life that we have now, but if you can try to do that, it will help a great deal. Those are just some of the things I wanted to talk about today. Hopefully those suggestions will help you. If you're not sleeping very well, please let me know if you try these and they work for you. If you have different things that you use to help you sleep, again, please let me know. I'd love to hear those suggestions, and I will try to mention them on the next podcast episode if I can. Please let me know whatever you think, or if you have any other suggestions, things that you want me to talk about on the show, please again let me know through the usual channels as I mentioned earlier. Thank you for joining me, as you always do, and until the next time, goodbye.